Have you ever heard a story, one that just sounds so unbelievable, but there's something about it, like it's trying to tell you something really true about people?
Yeah.
Well, get ready, because today we're diving deep into a story full of wild scenarios that might just reveal some of our very human habits. It's time for another deep dive.
I think it's amazing how these old stories, the ones passed down for ages, they often act like secret mirrors, reflecting things about us and the societies we create, things we might not want to admit.
Right. A listener actually sent us this awesome Persian folktale, and it's got everything. Jealousy, the kind that simmers, wishes that feel like they're straight out of a dream or maybe a nightmare. And get this, a baby who comes into the world with some unique features. We're going to break this down together, untangle the threads of meaning hidden within this fantastical story. What do you say?
I'm in. And it's not just about retelling a cool story, it's about going deeper, right? Understanding how these outlandish elements actually connect to our basic human experiences and the values that cultures hold on to. So let's start unraveling this intriguing tale.
Okay, so imagine this. 3 orphan sisters struggling to survive in poverty. Right away, the story highlights contrasts. We have 2 sisters known for their, well, let's say, lack of kindness.
Right.
And then there's the youngest, who is described as incredibly kind and good-hearted. This sets up a dynamic that we see pretty often in these kinds of stories.
Yeah, that initial difference right away brings in a moral elements, like the storyteller's inviting us, the listeners, to think about the different choices people make and, what happens as a result. It lays the groundwork for exploring good and bad, right and wrong.
Totally. Now, because they're desperate for food, these sisters end up at a rubbish heap trying to find anything to eat. And it's in this bleak, almost hopeless setting that their wildest dreams, their biggest wishes come out. And trust me, these aren't your average hopes and dreams.
It's interesting, the fact that their surroundings are so bare actually makes their desires seem even bigger, It underlines how we as humans tend to long for something way beyond our immediate situation, especially when things are tough. It adds this depth to their wishes, makes them even more powerful.
For sure. So the oldest sister, she kicks things off by wishing she could marry the king's lawyer. Okay, not bad.
Not bad at all.
But she also wants to be able to cook a pot of ash, that hearty Persian soup, a pot that could somehow feed the entire army and never, ever run out. Talk about ambitious.
That wish, it shows she wants more than just personal safety by marrying someone important, but also this ability to take care of a whole community. I mean, feeding a whole army, that's a powerful image of endless giving.
Absolutely. And the middle sister, not to be outdone, chimes in. She wants to marry the king's vizier, and she wants to weave a carpet so big, so massive, that the entire army could sit on it comfortably with space to spare. Again, the sheer size of this wish, it's impressive.
Totally. Her focus is on making something huge and useful, It suggests she wants recognition, to leave a mark, maybe even show off a bit of power and control.
Now comes the youngest sister. Her wish, it's on a whole other level.
Yeah.
She wishes to marry the king himself.
Wow.
And she wants to give birth to a son, but not just any son, a son with a head that's half gold and half silver, flowers blooming from his mouth when he laughs, pearls falling from his eyes when he cries, and get this, gold and silver bricks appearing under his feet as he walks. It's such a striking, fantastical image.
Wow, this wish is loaded with symbolism, which we'll dig into later. But even now, you can see the jump from marrying an official to marrying the king himself, and her description of her future child, it's extraordinary. It sets her apart from her sisters instantly, like she's destined for something truly unique.
And this is where the story takes a turn, a totally unexpected one. As luck would have it, the king's stables were located right behind this rubbish heap. And guess who happened to be there, tending to his horses as the sisters were sharing their incredible dreams? The king himself. He overhears every word. What are the chances?
Oh, wow. That eavesdropping, it's classic storytelling. It's that moment when everyday life crashes into something extraordinary. And the king's reaction, it was interesting. He doesn't brush off these wishes as silly fantasies.
Not at all. Instead of laughing it off, he takes them extremely seriously. He actually demands that they fulfill their promises with a very real threat of death if they fail. Talk about pressure.
That demand, it sounds harsh, but it definitely raises the stakes. The sisters have to face the consequences of their wishes, see how those dreams would play out in the real world. And it also hints that the king might be curious, or maybe even believes in the power of what they said.
Okay, so what happens next? Well, for reasons we can only guess, maybe he's fascinated, maybe he's testing them, maybe he just likes to shake things up. The king actually makes their wishes come true.
Seriously?
Yeah. The oldest sister marries the lawyer, the middle sister marries the vizier, and amazingly, the youngest sister marries the king. So at first glance, everyone got what they wanted.
It does seem that way, but it kind of makes you wonder, how can these impossible wishes actually happen? It makes you think about the tricks or maybe even the cleverness involved.
And real life, it always has a way of throwing in a bit of irony, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with the eldest sister and her magic pot of ash. She does make some ash, but get this, she cooks it in a tiny little eggshell. Talk about a red flag. And her real trick, she adds a ridiculous amount of salt, making it completely inedible. So technically, there's still food left over after the army tries to eat it, but no one in their right mind would want to.
Huh. That's clever, I'll give her that. But also sneaky. She found a way to keep her promise, but totally missed the point. Shows a lack of genuine generosity, right? More focused on saving herself than truly fulfilling the wish.
Exactly. Then there's the middle sister and her enormous carpet. She weaves it, and it is huge, just like she wished. But here's the thing. She sews pins into every single knot. Ouch.
Ouch is right.
So imagine the poor soldiers trying to sit on this thing. They're constantly being poked, so they end up huddled together to avoid the pain. Ironically, that leaves empty space on the carpet. Again, technically fulfilling the wish, but with a selfish, kind of mean twist.
These two sisters, they really show their true colors. Their actions show they're more concerned with appearances than actually being good. Maybe they even resent those grand wishes they made in the first place.
Now let's shift to the youngest sister, the new queen. Guess what? The older sisters are eaten up with jealousy. They can't stand that their younger sister, the kind one, has not only married the king, but is now the most powerful woman in the land. They're terrified that she might actually fulfill her amazing wish and become even more loved and powerful.
That jealousy, we see it in stories, and in real life, it's such a strong and destructive force. Here, it pushes the older sisters to do some really awful things, blinding them to reason, driving them to betrayal.
And fueled by their envy, they cook up a truly terrible plan. They bribe the royal midwife, the woman who helps with the birth, with a ton of money and expensive gifts. Their instructions to swap the queen's newborn baby with a puppy. It's just horrifying.
That's just, wow. It's a disturbing act. It shows how far jealousy can twist someone, lead them to do unthinkable things. And the queen and her baby, so vulnerable at that moment, it makes the sisters' actions even more wicked.
And then, as if by some miracle, the youngest sister gives birth to a son exactly as she wished, head half gold, half silver, the whole deal. But the midwife, she does what she was paid to do. She takes the extraordinary baby and replaces him with a newborn puppy. Then she puts the real prince, the golden and silver-headed baby, in a strong wooden box, seals it tight, and throws it into the vast sea.
Man, that contrast, the amazing birth and then this act of pure evil, it's so powerful. It's like the story is saying that even innocence can be threatened by jealousy and deceit. The image of the baby, alone in that box, adrift at sea, it's heartbreaking. It's a journey into the unknown, a real test of fate.
Meanwhile, back at the palace, the king is given the unbelievable, awful news. His queen has given birth to a puppy. Understandably, he's furious, completely tricked. He accuses his poor wife, who's already weak and ill, and orders her to be thrown into a dark, lonely prison. It's a truly tragic turn of events.
That unjust imprisonment, it shows what happens when lies win. The king made a judgment based on false information. And the younger sister, who is so good, who seemed to have a blessing, now she's facing complete despair.
But don't worry, the story doesn't end there. Let's follow that wooden box as it bobs along the sea, tossed by waves for who knows how long, until it washes ashore on a distant beach. And who finds it? A kind, hard-working, but very poor woodcutter. He's struggling to feed his wife and their 7 daughters. Life is tough for them.
The woodcutter, he's like a breath of fresh air in the story. He's compassionate, selfless, the opposite of the cruelty we've seen so far. And his poverty, it makes his discovery even more extraordinary.
Totally. So he finds this strange box, opens it up cautiously, and is shocked to see a healthy baby inside. And this baby, he has a head that's undeniably half gold, half silver. The woodcutter's family are overwhelmed at first. How will they feed another mouth? But then something amazing happens. The baby gets hungry and starts to cry, but instead of tears, beautiful, valuable pearls fall from his eyes. And when he's happy, gurgling with laughter, fragrant flowers bloom from his mouth.
Wow. Those miracles, right away they tell us this child is special, precious. The pearls and flowers, they're like physical proof of his worth, maybe even a sign of a divine blessing.
And this changes everything for the woodcutter and his family. He uses the pearls to lift them out of poverty, finally able to provide a comfortable life for his wife and daughters. The young prince grows up in this loving, humble home. And when he starts to walk, another miracle. Wherever he steps, gold and silver bricks appear beneath his feet. To keep his unique head hidden, the woodcutter makes him a simple lambskin hat.
The prince, he keeps experiencing these miracles, each one confirming how special he is. And that lambskin hat, it's like a symbol of his hidden heritage, a secret kept to protect him from a world that might not understand.
As the years pass, the woodcutter starts to put the pieces together. He realizes that this is the king's lost son, and he understands that the queen's jealous sisters must be behind this whole mess. But he's a humble man, and he wisely keeps this knowledge to himself. He knows how powerful those sisters are, and he's afraid for the prince's safety.
That silence, it's not because he's being mean, it's actually a smart move. He understands the power dynamics, and he knows that revealing the truth too soon could put the prince in danger. He's being a protector.
Now some time passes, and the king, he's still grieving the loss of his wife and son. He decides to hold big dinners at the palace every night, inviting all the townspeople. When it's finally the woodcutter's turn to attend, he brings the young prince along. And the prince, who's grown into a clever young man, he has a plan. He asks the local carpenter to carve him a small wooden chick.
That little wooden chick, it might seem like nothing, but it becomes a key part of the prince's plan. It's a simple thing, but it carries a lot of weight in the story.
So, at the dinner, everyone's enjoying the king's hospitality.
Yeah.
But the prince, he refuses to eat a single bite. The king notices this and asks him why. The prince, bold as can be, says that the food must be poisoned.
What?
And to prove it, he dramatically holds up the wooden chick and says that it ate the food and died. Of course, everyone knows a wooden chick can't eat. It causes a lot of confusion and anger.
That accusation, it's so absurd, but it's brilliant. It forces the king to think about something illogical, just like he was tricked into believing the lie about his wife and the puppy. It plants a seed of doubt.
Exactly. Then the prince delivers the knockout punch. He compares the wooden chick not being able to eat to a queen not being able to give birth to a puppy. The king, he's hit by the absurdity of it, and he suddenly remembers the awful accusation against his wife. The truth starts to dawn on him.
Wow, that comparison. So simple, but so effective. It cuts through years of lies, and the king has to face the fact that he was deceived. It's the trigger that finally brings the truth to light.
The king, now realizing he's been fooled, sends everyone else away and demands answers from the woodcutter and the prince. The prince knows this is his moment. He removes the lambskin hat, revealing his unique head. Half gold, half silver. The king is overcome with emotion. He recognizes his son instantly. All those years of pain, the lost time, it all comes rushing back.
That's a powerful moment. It's the visual proof, the prince's brave act of showing himself, that finally breaks the web of lies.
The king and prince rush to the prison where the queen has been suffering for years. She's heartbroken, close to death. But when she sees her son, her husband, alive and well, her joy is immense. And slowly, miraculously, she starts to recover.
The family reunited. It shows that love can endure, that even after facing so much hardship, the human spirit can be incredibly strong. It's the beginning of justice, the start of healing.
What about those wicked sisters? The king, knowing the full extent of their betrayal, decides on their punishment. They are thrown to the dogs, a harsh punishment. But within the context of the story, it represents justice being served. The kind woodcutter and his family are rewarded for their compassion and for raising the prince. And finally, the king, queen, and prince begin their happy life together, the life they were denied for so long.
The ending, it reinforces the moral code we often see in these folktales. The bad guys are punished, the good guys rewarded. It gives a sense of closure, and it shows that doing the right thing matters.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into this incredible tale, what are some of the key lessons, the symbols that stand out to you?
Well, the biggest theme, without a doubt, is how destructive jealousy can be. It's what fuels the conflict. It pushes the older sisters to do terrible things with awful consequences for everyone. It reminds us that envy can poison everything.
And those impossible wishes, what do you think they tell us about what people want, what they dream of?
They show us basic human desires, magnified by the sister's poverty. The oldest sister wants food, security, influence. The middle sister wants to leave her mark, be remembered. The youngest sister, her wish is full of magic. It speaks to a deeper worth, a sense of destiny.
And the imagery around the youngest sister's son, the gold and silver head, the pearls, flowers, the bricks, what do you make of those details?
The head, I think it symbolizes duality, maybe earthly and divine, or a value that's both precious and lasting. The pearls and flowers appearing with his emotions, maybe they show inner purity, a connection to nature, something miraculous. And the gold and silver bricks, they represent the ability to create wealth, abundance. It's like a gift.
What about the kindness, first from the youngest sister and then so strongly from the woodcutter? It seems so important in contrast to all the darkness.
Definitely. It's like a light in the story. The youngest sister, her goodness makes her a target, but it also makes her worthy of redemption. And the woodcutter, by taking in the prince, he sets in motion the events that lead to the truth being revealed. Their actions show how powerful empathy and compassion can be.
We see hidden identity and eventual revelation in so many stories. Why do you think that idea is so compelling?
I think it allows the main character to go through a period of growth, their suspense, and when their true nature is revealed, it changes everything. In this case, the prince's hidden identity protects him, lets him mature, so he can reclaim his rightful place.
So, to our listener, what does this wild, unbelievable story tell you about human nature and the way truth can eventually come out, even when it seems impossible?
This deep dive into this Iranian folktale, it's been a fascinating journey, exploring emotions, morality, powerful symbols. I hope you found it as thought-provoking as we did.
If you enjoyed exploring Iranian folklore with us, be sure to subscribe to The Deep Dive for more journeys into amazing stories from around the world. Leave a comment, let us know what parts of this story resonated with you. And if you learned something new today, give us a like.
We've got a whole playlist dedicated to Iranian things, folklore, mythology, and more. Check it out.
And as you go about your day, think about this. How often do we judge people or situations based on what we see on the surface without realizing the truth, the worth that might be hidden underneath? It's something to consider, isn't it?
It is.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. Until next time.
See you.